It's really kind of funny how day to day, when I'm trying to find something to talk about, topics come really easy one day, and then the next day you're like drawing a complete and total blank on what you want to say. Like yesterday, talking about Snoopy, that was a no-brainer. I love that dog. The circumstances in which we got him were great, you know. It lends credence to the whole cat gods have brought you a cat kind of thing, because that happened a lot. I think we had like 3 cats that found us, and then the 4th one, Shadow, Dad found and rescued. You know, it's just a really interesting phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon, but it's not a phenomenon. It's not a God thing. It's just animals looking for food, and you just happen to be in the neighborhood, you know? So I don't know. It's like pulling the Band-Aid off of telling a kid about those kind of holidays, you know? This is the Alcomina, the natural processed coffee. It is a little older. This is an October roast. It's been up in the cabinet. It may have 1 or 2 more uses before it sees the bye-bye bin. But there's just so much coffee that I bought, I've kind of put this one to the wayside. But this is the special one. This is the naturally processed coffee. This is the almond processed coffee. It is the entire cherry being left out to dry in the sun, and then that fermentation creates a totally different flavor profile for a coffee. Maybe a coffee had cherry notes and chocolate notes and some kind of creamy note. Well, that coffee is now transformed into something with completely different notes. Thanks to this process. So you can have the same coffee yield, but a completely different flavor of coffee. And this is a little bit more funky. It's a little bit more fermented. It's got a different flavor to it. That is not a coffee, that is a shell of a coffee, so we won't. I know that this has got a couple of shells in the coffee, so let us get this buzzed up and we'll see what happens next. Now, Chemex, I've been doing it at this setting for the past couple of days. I think we'll keep with that consistency and see what happens. What's nice about this grinder is that there's enough vibration happening up here to where if you spritz the coffee, it does get just a little bit sticky, but the vibration and gravity help feed it down the tube. The problem though, is that inevitably they get stuck. 2 or 3 will get stuck in these things keeping the anti-popcorning nodule there in place. Doesn't work half the time, but it still makes for a great coffee grinder. Still smells really good. It smells the same as it did the last time we had it. It's not lost any of its potency. It's still got a lot of strength and flavor left. It's just that as it gets older, there's going to be a point where it's going to be far less flavorful than it was about a week after roasting. So, but we should be all right. I'm organizing this in a weird way, but it's just my brain doing things in a weird way. All right, so we are set. We're ready to go. Our water is heating up. Got a little bit of time left. So yeah, like I said, it's really hard to come up with things some days, and it's a Wednesday, so I break into the weather. I don't do sports, so I have no idea. Father-in-law stopped by yesterday after his golf outing. Matt has relatives in Wisconsin, and they come down to the farm that's down here, the family farm, every once in a while, and they're coordinating trips. So his dad was down here, and we're discussing where we're going to go eat at on Sunday. So that was a thing. He stopped by yesterday in the middle of me doing everything. I bought a new microphone for the downstairs. I'm going to talk about that downstairs later. Maybe I'll do a stream to kick it off. I'm really kind of excited about it. It's an expensive microphone, but it was heavily discounted. So it sounded great in all of my tests. I just need to tweak everything. It sounds a lot better, I think, than the one that I had. The one that I had was fine, but it was like $60 used. I think that was in like 2016, 2017. It's been a while. So I thought an update was warranted. And like I said, it was like 52% off of the price. So it was really hard for me not to go, you know what, I could use that upgrade. The next thing I need to do is upgrade my streaming camera. It looks fuzzy compared to everything else. And it's really aggravating to me how fuzzy it looks. The cherry tree's lost all of its blossoms. We had one night where it dipped down to 27 degrees, but generally the cherry blossoms were pretty much done. They had been up there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that's kind of how they go. Now unfortunately there won't be any cherries on the tree. That would be kind of nice, but it's an ornamental cherry, so it gets its nice blossoms, and then the blossoms fall off and make kind of a mess on the ground, and then they brown up and start matching the landscaping, so it'll be fine. I'm not worried. I don't go out there. I'm not worried at all. We had we did have an interesting, I have a lot of empathy, I guess, and so does my neighbor. She's older, so she doesn't know how to channel it as well anymore, so everything is a crisis. I would assume she's moved on by now, but we had a pregnant cat that was wandering around the grounds. And of course, the horrible people that live around here told the hypersensitive lady, oh, there's a pregnant cat spotted. I think they do this just to torture her because they're, like I said, they're horrible people who know that she is a very empathic individual, and there was a whole hoopla about her feeding feral cats. She'd been feeding them for 3 years up to that point, just, you know, out of the kindness. And then we started getting more people in here, and those more people were just being terrible. I mean, the word poison came up at one point. These people are terrible. You can understand my reaction to that woman doing that thing to the dog. So they're horrible people. Their first thing was like, well, poison them, poison the cats. We don't want them around. And it's like, just shut up. You know, it's terrible. People are awful. But so there was a pregnant cat. This is going down really quickly. It's very interesting. So nobody's fed cats. Nobody's fed any cats for at least a year now. And the cats that were here are now in a barn somewhere up north, being barn cats for as long as they live. They don't live that long, but in nature, but you know, they're still there. Yeah, see, that's the kind of the funk that you get. There's kind of it's not funk like feet, or, you know, funk like bad breath, or funk like swamp ass. You know, it's just like, you lean down, you expect this a coffee aroma that you're used to emanate from the what's being drawn down here. And you get more of a fermented smell that's more akin to like almost like a raisin, which should be a turnoff because I hate raisins, but it's coffee, so it's not nearly as bad. I hate raisins. I'm not right. Well, hate's a strong word. I'm not into raisins. Raisins are not my friend. I would not accept a raisin as a gift. Let's just, we'll put it that way. So yeah, it's just this really interesting smell. But anyway, so the story. Sorry, I'm like, oh, we're talking about coffee too. So yeah, I mean, it's got this really interesting, funky, fermented smell that's pleasant. It's a pleasant funk. It's like a Parliament Funkadelic. It's a pleasant funk. So we had a pregnant cat, and they told her about it, and of course she's hypersensitive, so she's like, if you see the cat, let us know. And I did see the cat. It went down to the storm drain, like all of those feral cats do. And I came back in and I told Matt, and I said, yeah, she's she's pregnant, So, and so, but the cats moved on. There was no food here to be had, so the cats moved on to someone else to try to get food. That is for sure and for certain. I've not seen it for 5 days. So usually, if they're hanging around and they're living down in that storm drain, we're going to see it. And we haven't seen it, so it's moved on. But somebody was walking their dog and walked by the storm drain, saw something furry curled up down in the front of the storm drain, immediately texted her, "Oh, I think the pregnant kitty's hurt and is sleeping outside." And immediately she's freaking out. She said, "Can you go out and she texted us, "Can you go out and check on the cat? Somebody said that it was hurt and sleeping and it wouldn't move. So we're afraid." And I'm like, because I share the empathy. I don't want any animal to hurt, regardless, but I know that these people are doing this to her just to rile her up. Because of the whole experience with the feral cats and her feeding them. And they're just doing it to be terrible people. And so I went out and went down to the drain and looked, and there was indeed a little fur ball curled up into a ball laying there next to the storm drain, breathing, but it was laying there next to the storm. And first I'm like, that is not the right color because the kitty is gray and this is brown. And then I get a little closer and I start talking to it like I always do to animals, just in a calming voice. It doesn't make any difference with feral animals that are wild, but in my mind, it makes me feel a little better. So that's the point. So I'm like, just gently saying words. It doesn't move. It doesn't twitch. It's all curled up into a ball, apparently thinking it's safe. And I look and I'm like, that is the tail of a raccoon. So I find a stick and I don't poke it, but I take it and I stroke it against its fur. And it turns out its head pokes up, its little panda ears perk up, and its little raccoon face looks up at me. And I'm like, oh, you poor old thing. And it was just an old fat raccoon who was tired and was sleeping there. And it was sleeping in a strange place, which may have meant that it was sick. But it seemed fine because it got up, looked at me funny, didn't hiss at me, didn't swat at me, didn't do anything. It just looked at me annoyed and then stuck its head into I couldn't fit. It was too fat to fit into the drain. So it just stuck its head into the drain so that it didn't have to look at me anymore. And I'm like, okay, all right, you're a wild animal. Then that's all I need to know. So I went back inside and I said, it's a raccoon. So, and I'm not saying that the person that walking the dog thought it would be funny to call a raccoon a cat and then tell her that. I don't think that. I think that they actually saw a furry thing down there and thought it might have been a cat. And when it's curled up like that, it's if you don't know raccoons, I lived in the middle of a national forest. I know some wild animals and how they look when they're curled up sleeping. And that was definitely a raccoon. I had to get kind of up close to it in order to ascertain, but they're not going to, an old person, an 80-year-old woman walking a sheepdog is not going to walk down into a sewer drain to see if it's a cat or a raccoon. So, it could have been a fox, it could have been a coyote, it could have been a small coyote, but coyotes got more wiry hair. This was more of a fluffy thing. So I went down and it was a raccoon. So, apparently she doesn't care as much about raccoons as she does about cats, because she says, okay, good, it wasn't the cat. So I'm like, animal wasn't happy, wasn't feeling good, but yeah, sure, it wasn't the cat, so that's all that mattered. It's just got a really interesting, funky smell, very fermented. The taste is very fruity. This has actually been roasted light, you get this wonderful, almost like cherry, like not just like a hint, not just like, I feel a note of cherry. No, you get an immediate cherry hit when you drink this. And then some other, you get a little bit of a salty tang. It's really not coffee-like, which is really strange to say. It's almost like its own sweet mess, you know? It does still have the funk and taste of coffee, the bitterness, but it's a very mild, very drinkable coffee. That's just incredibly sweet without adding anything. And like I said, it's just got that wonderful actual cherry kind of taste. There's no hint of cherry. It's not, oh, this tartness could be described as cherry-like. No, to me, this is a very cherry tasting coffee. And it's just, even, you know, coming up on a birthday, it still tastes really great and is really fun to drink, especially with the Chemex. And that grind setting is always great. Cool. Well, anyway, so I did get something out of it, I guess, today. that whole animal. This place in animals, man, there's so many people out there who are just terrible. And I think now it's more of I hate to think the worst of people, but a lot of the people around here have just shown me that they are not good. So it's incredibly easy to immediately go to the worst of a person who would immediately text her to say, I think I saw a pregnant cat. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to her. It has nothing to do with her at all. But they will immediately text message her because she used to be on the board. She used to be the only board member from the community on the board. So they would text her and call her and go on her front porch and talk to her relentlessly, because I think that would get something done. And everybody's got an opinion, and it's horrible. And no one knows subtlety anymore. Everybody's got an opinion, and that opinion must be heard, and you must agree with my opinion or scoff, 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 you know? And this place is just rife with that. And it's absolutely frustrating. It's why I don't go to any of those meetings. I voted for the two people I wanted to get on the board. Those two people were elected. One was elected president. So I have the representation I need on that board. I do not need to go to any of those meetings where people are just horrible. And decorum, after about 10 minutes, is non-existent. I can't do it. Even the meet and greets, all I see are people cornering other people, board members, or people they feel are a higher part of the community, or people that feel that they are a higher part of the community, sitting in the middle of everything, enjoying all of the attention and almost gloating over the misery. And it's just absolutely, it's just something I have no desire to be a part of. So I'm happy to live in my corner, drink my coffee, watch the field in front of me, have a nice life. I'm more than happy to live with that than deal with a bunch of old people that know better than everybody else. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow. I'll try to find something else to talk about. Maybe another raccoon sighting. Who knows? We'll talk to you later. Bye.